Hey guys, this is Nique and Ress, and today we will be talking about emotional safety.
Yeah, so emotional safety is a concept where people can feel free to be their authentic, true self. When we're talking about emotional safety, there is vulnerability in this, there is peace in this, and it enables freedom in expression. Emotional safety is what we should be striving in all of our connections. So, before we get into it, Nick, what was the first thing you thought of when you heard this word, emotional safety? Or, matter of fact, safety in general? Usually the words that come to mind when you hear safety?
I'm about to say safe, but that's can't say that. But a place where I don't feel like, I guess, scared or not being able to be open. A place where I can be myself fully
Yeah,
with not any harm coming to me.
yeah, yeah. When I think of safety, like the first thing that comes to mind to me is calmness and rest, just a general at easement. Honestly, when I hear safety, I usually think of the opposite, which is anxious. So like I hear safety, I'm like not anxious. Because the opposite of safety is anxious, is anxiety, is a feeling of intensity of like, what's about to happen. And so when we are thinking about emotional safety, it's using those words that come to mind when we think safety, but thinking about it in terms of our emotions, the calmness, the rest, the being your full self, the being not scared in relation to your emotions when it comes to your connection to these people or places. So, as we're talking about emotional safety, first, there's kind of like two ways to go about it. One way is to look at our own security based on our own past experiences and learning what emotional safety means for ourselves and how we can create that internally. Then there's emotional safety in relationship to others, in relationship to other spaces. And when we look at emotional safety in that aspect, it's about building it with another person. How do me and this other person come together? So it's not just what I do, it's also what this other person, these other people, this space does in conjunction with me. So, when we're talking about ourselves, this is checking out our own mental baggage. And like a lot of things we've talked about, this kind of goes back to our attachment styles, meaning this goes back to how we bond with others. Is the way that we bond or we have learned to bond healthy? And if it's not healthy, how do we make it one? Now, when it comes to others, this is about what we allow and what we give time to, what we give nurture to, what we agree to foster. So, in regards to emotional safety, when it comes to places or other people, is this something you feel like you've experienced a lot in your friendships or your partnerships?
Mm, I really don't feel like I have. It takes a while, but I don't feel like, in some aspects, yes, but 100%, I don't know. But I don't know if that's just me.
No,
No,
I don't.
that feeling that I can do that. I mean,
Yeah,
I am close with a lot of friends, but sometimes I wonder if I can be my genuine self without being anxious and being my wholehearted self. So I'm not sure really. In relationships, I know I came really close, or maybe I was open in one, maybe two, but majority of the time not there either, which is sad. But yeah.
but you know, but you know what? I feel like that's the experience that a lot of us are living. Like when we think about it, we probably can be like, I mean, I do have this one friendship or this two friendships. I might have had that with this one person, but I think for a lot of us, when we genuinely look at a lot of our relationships with others, and you look at the definition and you're like, okay, calmness, not feeling afraid. I can be my genuine self. I feel at ease. This is not an anxious attachment. It's like, dang, I don't think I have that in a lot of my relationships. I don't think that's something that naturally occurred throughout my life. I'm with you. It's something that I think of recent has become a thing for me. Like over the last 2 years, the people that I have in my life, I have welcomed into my life, yes, but it's out of conscious effort. But before those 2 years, no. Like before those 2 years, no. Kind of like you, I feel like I had this in one relationship and I might have had this in like two friendships, you know? But when I really sit down and look at it, I'm like, dang, calmness, rest at easement. I don't think that's something that was naturally occurring. It wasn't something that became consistent until I stopped and genuinely evaluated myself in all of my relationships and made the conscious effort to make this a thing.
But it's not that conscious effort, sure.
Oh yeah, because it's very easy to meet people, like them, have fun with them, but still not have like I'm 100% myself with you. I have to block off certain parts of me to maintain this relationship. I think a lot of us have those, like, this is my group A friends, this is my group B friends, this is my group C friends type of thing, where like group A, that's my Nique, you know? If something's going wrong, I feel genuinely that I can tell you and I'm not embarrassed about telling you. I might need to tell you in my own time, but for the most part, I feel like I could be my authentic self. And then you have your group B friends, which might be like, but if I'm down to go get drinks, these are the people, you know? If, you know, Nique's not here, Nique's busy, I can go get drinks with these people and we have a fun time, but like, I'm not telling them my business. We keeping it light. Yeah, girl, I'm dating. Work's fine. Kids good. Henny on the rocks. Like that's that, you know? Then you have like your group C people, which is like, I mean, we talk a lot at work, but like when you text me on a Saturday, I'm like, what is you doing? Like, you know, I think a lot of us kind of have that where we have people in like categories and we're just like, and that's okay. This is the category for these folks. But kind of like you said, when I thought about it and I looked at it, I was like, I think that's kind of sad. Like, I think I would like to have more authentic relationships in my life.
And you think it is, but it's not. And I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's where that part of consciousness has to come in, because I think if you would have asked me this like 3 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, girl, if I didn't have to think about it. That would have been my automatic response. And then if you made me sit and think about it and like write a list and be like, okay, does this relationship meet all these categories or most of these, you know, checkoffs? And I'd be like, nah, to like 90% of y'all.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about how do we get to emotional safety in general. So when it comes to emotional safety in other people, we honestly just have to kind of cleanse ourselves from emotionally unsafe people. And to do this, we got to be able to recognize who is emotionally unsafe. So a big one for me is people who take no accountability. And this is a huge one for me because I feel like I've come across a lot of people like this. And I know this is one of my triggers. I like to do a lot of self-reflection. And that doesn't mean that I don't get it wrong sometimes, because there's definitely times I have been in the wrong and I had to like check myself and be like, hey, Ress, were you wrong about this? And I'll be like, girl, no, you was right. I deserve that. And I'm like, cool. And I'll move on. And then 3 years later, I'm like looking back like, you might have been the aggressor in this situation. So I've definitely had that. And we all have our faults, but I'm talking about the people who are constantly taking no accountability. Like nothing is ever their fault. Everything they have an excuse for. Everything they have I'm sorry, but they can never just be like, you know what, I was wrong. There's always a but. There's always a shifting of blame. And this is something I had a friendship, actually. I had a really close friendship with someone who I really, really loved. And they had a lot of those other safety words. They were someone I felt I could be my authentic self around. There was someone who I felt I could be the darkest version of myself and not be judged. They understood it. They understood my darkness. They understood my intensity. They understood all of these sides of me I feel like I try to keep hidden. And it's why I really enjoyed this person's company, not because I like dwelled in the darkness or whatever, but because when I needed someone who could just understand without judgment, they were there. And I held on to this friendship for a long time and finally had to let it go because of the no accountability.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we bonded over was like, we could both be very intense people at times. We could both be very emotionally intense people. We can both be very sarcastic people. We can both be very theatrical, but we're also both reserved. And we got that. We got each other's like, I understand how you are also seen as reserved, but you're also completely not that. You are completely a walking contradiction. I get it. It makes sense to me. But over the years, I mentioned this in the episode before. I called it my Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy friendship. Like together, we were the bad girls of Gotham City. Like we would get together and fuck shit up. Or like we would get together and just be like, all right, well, love, kind, peace, the happiness, passion, all those would intensify together, but also a lot of our bad traits would intensify together. And when that would happen, I would step back and be like, yo, we were in the wrong. Or yo, you know what? Instead of hyping me up to catch this misdemeanor felony charge, how about like, I think I need to chill out. And they weren't about that. They were not about the chilling out part. You know exactly. Yeah, they weren't about the chilling out part. And as I grew,
you would do that. Like you would come to me for like, I guess, sound advice.
Yes, yeah.
Like, okay, well, I'm gonna hear. I guess I hear you out.
Yes, and I would have to. Like they would be. Like they were my poison ivy. Like they were just like, yes, girl, the Joker makes an excellent husband. I don't understand what Nique is talking about. And then I would come talk to you and you would just be like, love, peace, unity, forgiveness. And I'm like, I mean, okay, Nique, I guess. And then I would calm down and be like, you know what? Maybe this is something I need to think through. And as I began to heal and as I began to mature, I had to recognize that they were not in that phase of their life yet. Mm-hmm. That they just weren't at that point where they were ready to heal. They were ready to mature. And it got to the point where I could no longer maintain this friendship because it was like, how can you not see that's wrong? Like we were no longer hype up buddies. I started recognizing like, yo, before we started to make the bad decisions and choices, I was like, yo, that's a bad decision and choice. And we couldn't have that conversation because it was like, what do you mean that's a bad decision? I'm not gonna do it anyway. Boom. And I was no longer like, yes, tag team. And when you love a person and you see a person you love that's doing something that's harmful, you tell them, and we got to that point where our friendship was now a lot of me like, yo, I gotta call you out on your bullshit. I gotta tell you, this is unhealthy. And it strained our relationship. And I had to cut it off because at some point I'm like, I don't want to be a part of your destruction.
Exactly.
And if you won't recognize that this is destructive, I can't keep maintaining this connection because now it's affected me watching you do this. It's affected me watching you knowingly do stuff that is harmful to you or to others or to the environment. And it's not even like we got to the point of, I accept that you're right, I did that, blah, blah, blah. You were still in that phase of it's everybody but me. I'm angry and I'm angry at everyone and everybody owes me something.
Yeah. Another way to, back on the no accountability, I hate that also, like with like dating, like guys always tell all the stuff this girl did, but let's step back. What did you do? What did you do in that relationship? You play some type of part. I understand some girls could be just really crazy, but what did you do in response to this, or what was your part in it? And I just hate when they can always list all the bad things. They can never list anything that they did in that situation. Mm-hmm. And that is something to look out for.
Yeah.
And if they can't like be accountable for that, how do you expect them to be accountable for your situations or in things that you go through?
Yeah, I always say that that's a red flag if you meet a dating partner and they talk about an ex and they only name bad things. They always make it seem like their fault. Like if you meet a person that you are romantically interested in and they don't have anything good to say about their ex, red flag. Red flag, because there was something that attracted you to them. There was something that you found good and wholesome and whatever. Like, oh, this is a person that is going to do some stuff and never recognize or take the accountability of like, yeah, I also created some of these issues because I did this first. I mean, yeah, she set my car on fire. I technically got caught cheating on her birthday with her best friend though, so
Yeah.
my bad. Like yes, setting the car on fire was wrong, but please let me know, why did she set the car on fire? Let's baby step to that.
Exactly. And you just don't get that. And that is definitely a red flag. Like,
Yeah.
even with me, like I could tell you some stuff that the guys did, but I'm gonna tell you some stuff that I could have did better too. But that's just me as a person.
Yeah.
Okay. Another way to cleanse yourself of emotionally unsafe people is noticing disrespectful people. I think this is a good one also. Like, if you're trying to be safe or if you're trying to be vulnerable with the person or just be yourself and they're disrespecting your true self or disrespecting you when you're opening up about things, I don't know, that doesn't sit well with me. Like, you're trying to open up but they're disrespecting you, or if they disrespect you in any type of way. Disrespect is very unsafe. It's not like a second guess about that one. It's not really the lines, but I feel like if I'm trying to be my authentic self or it's disrespected, or if I'm trying to tell you about things I went through and you throw it back in my face over and over, or just holding those things, it could be an argument, it could be anything, just trying to be disrespectful on any level. Like, there is no growth with that. That person can never be your safe place, or you can never be safe around them, and that going back to not taking accountability for anything they're doing as well.
I agree.
The disrespectful.
Yeah, I think a big important part of disrespect is to first define your definition of disrespect, because I think a lot of us think of disrespect as like, you put your hands on me, you curse me out or whatever, that's disrespectful. But we don't recognize, like, okay, but are they respectful of your time?
Yeah.
If I want marriage and a child and you don't want that, but you decide not to tell me until 9 months into it, I find that disrespectful. Are you respectful of my feelings? If I tell you that hurt me and you tell me whatever, you overreacting, I find that disrespectful. Disrespect is not only the big over glaring stuff. It can also be some of the minor stuff. And you have to define what disrespect is for you. Because for some people, for whatever reason, those other things might not be. It might be something completely different. But define what disrespect is to you first, and then stick to that.
Yeah. And it could look different to you than it looks to any other person. Yeah. And again, this is not like a full list, but some other traits to look out for and trying to realize, is this person unsafe? Are people who tramples over your boundaries, people who use projection and also ego trips. Just knowing for yourself what works for you and what makes you feel safe, and noticing when these things come up, how they make you feel in those moments, and just looking out for the bad traits and staying away from those when you're trying to grow and be your genuine self and be around people that make you safe.
Yeah. Now, going back to what we said, that there are two ways you can look at emotional safety with others, but also emotional safety within ourselves. And when we're talking about it within ourselves, we're talking about getting down to the root of the problem. I think it's very important to mention that looking at the root cause of why we engage in relationships and spaces with people who are emotionally unsafe is going to be a big factor in turning this around in our lives. some of the things we need to look at or ask ourselves is, okay, somewhere along the lines, I learned that being in a relationship means anxiety. Anxiety in a relationship is normal. When did I learn that? We're looking at things like, okay, when I'm in a relationship, I find that I don't feel a balance or like my needs are being met. I might be feeling like consistent feeling for me when I'm in relation with others is me suppressing myself. When did I learn that suppression is what's needed to connect with other people? Looking at things like, okay, I know I can easily detach myself from other people and walk away. Why is that a part of my survival? Why is that a normal thing for me? Why do I feel the need to people please? Why do I feel like people pleasing is almost like a personality trait? Getting down to the root cause of this is going to be a big help to making a transformation in your life. Because once I can identify why this became a thing, then I can treat it. And then I cannot repeat the same pattern over and over again. So I know personally with me, I had to stop and look at kind of like I was talking about earlier, that anxiety. For me, a long time relationships meant anxiety for me in regards to like romantic relationships. In fact, I remember like 2016 being in my office, talking to my therapist, and I had just ended a serious relationship, a very serious relationship for me, and probably the longest relationship I've ever been in. And I told my therapist, I felt at ease because they thought I was going to come in a mess. And I was like, oh no, relationships are so much anxiety for me. And him actually stop and be like, that is not how most people describe relationships. And I had to ask myself, like, yeah, I don't think that is how most people describe relationships. Why does relationships give me anxiety? Why was that the first thought that came to mind when I thought about being in a relationship? And I had to recognize that, like, being in relationships where I felt at peace was not normal for me. And when I was in relationships, because it's not that I didn't meet people who were peaceful, I met lots of people who are peaceful, but it felt odd for me. And I feel like a lot of times in those relationships where there was no anxiety, where they were just like, no, be open, be who you are, 100%. This is a safe place. I respect your needs and boundaries and blah, 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 and share emotions, all this stuff. I felt like I personally self-sabotage. And I had to do some deep reflecting of, okay, why do I self-sabotage when things are too calm? Because I had that. And actually, the longest relationship I ever had was someone who I did have emotional safety with. They were a very, very emotionally safe person. They still are to this day. And I had to ask myself, like, okay, why could I make it work with this person? Well, one, there is the factor of love. You actually have to have genuine love there. But I also had to look at other things as well. And I had to recognize that, you know what? I don't feel safe. I feel strange outside of anxiety when it comes to the way I bond with people. For me, bonding for a long time was an anxious thing. That's what felt normal. That's how I know I built a bond with a person. Even getting deeper into that, just digging through my own personal stuff, my own personal baggage, I had to recognize, like, oh, okay, I like to be in relationships where I feel like I have some type of control. And what I mean by control, because you would think like, okay, chaos doesn't seem like control, but I know how to survive in chaos. I know how to survive in emotional chaos and emotional instability. And for a long time, it was like, oh, no, I feel in control in this because I know what to expect. I know what's going to happen. I know this isn't going to work. So I could just exit. And then you do something wrong. I'm like, I'm done. Exit. Boom. Next person. And I know what my pattern is. I know how this works because being unsafe myself, I was emotionally unsafe myself and I was attracting emotionally unsafe people and I knew what to expect with emotionally unsafe people. But with people who were emotionally safe, I didn't know what that looked like and I didn't know what to expect. And I think it was a big issue of control for me, because it was like, okay, but if I give up this anxiety, this fear of you're not trustworthy, you're going to betray me, you're going to eventually do something that messes this up. So let me mess it up first. Let me end this first. Let me cause the chaos first, whatever. That was a form of control for me. And by letting go of that and saying, okay, I am going to trust. I am going to enjoy this peace. For me, that was a whole different type of anxiety that I couldn't control, because it was like, okay, but what if I get used to this and I trust that this is going to last? And then you pull the rug out from under me. Then what happens? I don't know what to do with my emotions when that happens, because I'm not used to trusting people. I don't know. What if I can't survive that? Blah, blah, blah. And so I just kept going in that really unsafe cycle, because it just created this feeling of feeling more in control, because I knew how to detach from that. I didn't know if I could detach from some place that felt safe.
Mine is kind of relatable, and I didn't really know why I was doing that. I would definitely, like, if I got too close with somebody, I would break up with them. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, this is too much. This is way too much. I don't want those feelings involved. And then when I'll come back, because I never really wanted to break up, it was just like, this is overwhelming me. I have to be vulnerable with this person. And then I'll come back. And it was like it wasn't a game. And I didn't really want to play it, but I didn't know how else to express myself, or I didn't want to get my whole heart into it, because I didn't want to be that heartbroken. Mm-hmm. And it would just continue to go that way. I think it continued all the way until like my first person I really loved. I kind of did that to him too. Like, okay, this is too much. Or I knew he was the one, but he was like, why do you keep doing this? It's just because it would get overwhelming trying to be like open. And I was like, I didn't get it. I didn't really get it. I really don't feel like I was feeling emotionally safe until maybe, my last relationship, which was my like fiance. And even sometimes in there, I wasn't all the way myself either, but that was the closest I had ever got, where I didn't want to just give up. I was more like, I'm going to keep on opening up because I felt safe to do so. But at the beginning, I didn't either. He had to like call me out on it. So it is something I'm still learning. And now it's like, in the back of my head, I'd be like, why won't you be my boyfriend? But in the forefront, I can say, why won't you be my boyfriend? But in the back of my head, if they ever did, I think my anxiety would skyrocket. I'm like, is this really what you want? Yeah. It is, but it ain't. Because now it's just like even harder, because it's just like opening up fully and being emotionally open and trusting you and all of that. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot. It takes a lot out of me.
It creates a pull and push kind of situation.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I do want to be vulnerable, but I am terrified of being vulnerable. So it's like that pull of, no, let's be together because this is what I want. And then they're like, yeah, let's be together. Then it's like push, because, oh, wait. What does that mean? You are asking me about my feelings and my emotions. You are making me mad. And I want to tell you you're making me mad, but I want to do it in a healthy way. No, I'm just going to cut off communication. It creates this push and pull.
Even like, with one of the people that I'm like, okay, what are we doing? But it's kind of okay. In the back of my head, I think I'm kind of okay with it, because I'm like, yeah, that's anyway. So it's easy to go with that at the moment. So it is that push and pull, because it's two different ways I'm feeling about it.
Do you think that's why you let it continue?
Yes. I mean, maybe I'm just coming to the light right now. That's why I let it continue, because it's still kind of scary. But I think while I was in it, that was the reason why. Because it's always, I know this person cares about me, I care about him, but maybe we're both scared of that.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. I definitely feel like that was something I definitely have struggled with. And I'm saying I have because I took a break from dating. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, okay? We don't know. In a couple months, I could come back and we have an episode called Rest Back on Her Bullshit. And I'm going to be like, everything we have ever said, throw that out. How girls someone. All right, let's talk. And that might be the scene. I hope not. I'm trying to be very selective with who I allow in my life. And some of that is also making sure like, okay, someone who's not on some BS, so we cannot be on BS together. But definitely, like that is something I definitely experienced, the push and the pull. That was definitely a big part of relationships for me, of like, I want this. And the minute it was coming closer, I'm like, panic, 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 self-sabotage. How can I get out of this? And there used to be this song, like, I feel like this was like 2017-ish. I don't remember the singer's names, but the song was called I Got Issues. And in like one of the lyrics, she says, you have hands like an ocean, pull me closer, then push me back in. And I think I was like in my therapist's office or something. Somehow the song got brought up, and I was like, I love that song. He was like, that is, I was like, I can't relate. And I was like happy when I said it. And he was like, so the song is called I Have Issues. And yeah, relate to it, to love. Should we dissect that? And I was like, nah, bro, I got it. You right. That is not, that maybe should not be my theme song for love. Why do I keep identifying with that? But it was a thing. Like, it was a thing. And it made me also look and realize at other things, because I think giving advice to like folks and friends, if a person told me like, yeah, I'm dating this person, I really, really like them, but like, they'd be like, oh, yes, I want to be with you. And I'd be like, yes, okay. And then they'd be like, you know what? Nope, I went through your phone. I saw that girl. She liked your picture. And I saw in 2012, you liked one of hers. I ain't got time for cheaters. Done. And I would be like, yeah, man, end it. Like, that's like, instead of being like, hey, I feel like you're self-sabotaging right now. Like, is that a thing? And not only that, but looking at those type of scenarios now, and instead of looking at it at the lens of, yeah, that man ain't serious about you. That girl don't really want you. And not saying to promote chasing that, but also looking at it from a more empathetic view of, that may be somebody who just still has not healed some stuff. And it might not have anything to do with you. They have some work they need to do. They might love you. They might care for you, all of that. They're just not ready to be in a relationship. That's not necessarily a sign of like, oh, yeah, no, they don't care. It might just be a sign of, yeah, that's a person with some unhealed trauma. That's some person with some unhealed wounds that they have not fully dug into.
Yeah.
Because I know I definitely have had people I really cared about, but that's how I reacted. And to a lesser extent, I definitely have been on my BS, guys. I'm not denying that. But I definitely also have had people I actually really did care. I really did want to be vulnerable with. I really did want to connect with. But I have my own issues. It wasn't that I didn't care about them enough. It wasn't that I didn't really love them. It wasn't that I really didn't want that. It was that I just was not ready. I had my own shit. It was about me. It wasn't about them.
But it's just knowing that about yourself, but they don't know that though. That's the thing.
Yeah. Let me first say, I think healing paths look different for everybody. For some of us, our healing path is more about loving ourselves more and putting our needs first and blah, blah, blah. And for other of us, it's more about taking accountability, being honest with ourselves, calling ourselves out on our bullshit. And I know for me, a lot of my journey, it's a little bit of both. But the first part of it, I think, I would say the first part of it was me taking accountability, because it wasn't something I did in the past. And that was the first part of it, of me learning to take accountability of, okay, that was me. That was my own trauma. That was my own issues. That was my own unhealedness. That had nothing to do with that person. That was me projecting that. And once I was able to do that accountability, then I was able to move into the now, loving myself more, being more authentic, defining my boundaries, self-love, self-care, all of that. And I want to say that because I do feel like we hear that self-love, self-care, all that stuff preached a lot, and you don't really hear people talking about the calling yourself out on your bullshit part a lot, the accountability part. And that's good. Yes, we need to do that self-love. We need to do that self-care. We need to do all of that. But there also needs to have that accountability part. You need to also be able to look and evaluate yourself honestly, not harshly, but honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, Ooh. So now let's talk about how do we create safe spaces or safe relationships of all sorts. So, the first one I would get into is understanding your triggers. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying about the whole focus on yourself where you are an issue or where you have to look at, okay, how did this form for me? You have to know what your triggers are first before we can evaluate if this is even something that's unsafe or safe for you. Because there's certain things that trigger me that might not trigger another person. I had to really sit and really think about times that I have flipped out, times that I felt unsafe emotionally. And I was like, okay, what was happening? What did they do? Okay, this is what they did, but how did that make me feel? And from that, I was able to gather a list of things that I know I cannot take. I know that this is going to trigger an unhealed version of me. So, for example, there was a person I dated who I enjoyed and I was spending time with. And there was like a situation where I went off. Like, I went off. You got to see the other side of my Gemini. You think that first side is funny, nice, and witty. Wait till you see the other side. And I was like, okay, so what was that? Because, I know what happened. I know what was did, but I was like, no, but that triggered something really intense. That was more than that situation. My reaction was a lot bigger than that situation. And the conclusion I came to once I really reviewed the situation in my head, reviewed what happened, reviewed what was the thing that hit the mark. And for me, it was feeling unsure about what to expect from that person. I need surety. I need clarity. I need reassurance in my relationships. And that's not something I knew before. Like, I didn't recognize that was something I really needed, that I needed reassurance. And I was able to look at that situation and go, you know what? What really triggered me about that whole situation was that you were doing these actions and then you were saying these things, and the actions and things did not line up.
Yeah.
You were making these plans, but you were going ahead and doing the action to make these plans, but then you would say little side remarks and things that made me question why you were doing these plans. What is this about? Where your mind really is. And that made me feel unsafe because I felt like I did not really know who I was dealing with or what I was dealing with. And I do not like spending my time and my energy with someone who I feel like has hidden sides of them that pop out unexpectedly at random times and at random moments. And I never know who I'm going to get. Now, if you ask me when that whole situation happened, like what happened, that's not the story you got. It was not. I felt vulnerable because I don't really know what's going on here. Every couple months, you say something or do something randomly that's out the blue with your regular character. And while to others, those things that were being done might have seemed small, to me, it shook our foundation because you presented yourself as this person. And every now and then I kept getting glimpses that this person was not who you really were. And that made me feel unsafe to be vulnerable with you. That's not the explanation my girls got in the group chat. The explanation they got was, and then I blank. So, he thought, but he gonna recognize. So now I gotta teach him blank. And that was like, and that was it. But there was deeper feelings in that.
Another way is as learning tools and treat them more as things to learn from instead of things to hold over each other's head as punishment. I really agree with this one because I know like that could be in friendships or relationships that seems to happen. I know for me, like in relationships, like friendships that I feel comfortable in, we can have mistakes or we can go through like a disagreement and we talk through it and then that's what it is. We just know how to operate from then. But I've been in other situations where, well, you did this. Well, that was so long ago. I thought we talked about it. Or you don't talk about it. You just bring it up you keep bringing it up all the time. And it's just like, this isn't making me feel safe. This isn't making me feel good. So I know for like a fact that this really does work when it's carried through an emotionally safe place where each party is emotionally safe with each other, because it just makes it easier to talk through it and not hold on to it and keep hanging it over people's head. I had somebody bring something up and hang it over my head, and it's just like, okay, check. I won't open up to you again, and I won't tell you any of my deep dark secrets. And yeah, this isn't gonna last too much longer.
Yeah.
So the other situations where we talk through it, it's just like, okay, I know I can tell you what's on my mind and how I'm feeling about this because you're gonna receive it well. And maybe if you don't receive it well, you have to process it. We gonna still talk about it, and it's no hard feelings. And it's just like a better way. It's a better feeling that I personally got. So I think that is a good thing to do.
I agree. I think this is, like you said, I think this is a good one for friendships as well, because we do usually think about it in regards to relationships, but like really think about it. How many times have you throughout your entire life had a friendship where you might have told them something in confidence and you're thinking like, okay, I could tell you this, and then y'all fall out, or then you like, sis, that's not a good call. Please don't do that. And all of a sudden it is, don't tell me about good calls when you blank. And you're like, oh, wow. Okay.
You onto that. Okay.
I had a friend that used to do that, and it wasn't often, but it was a horrible feeling of like, oh, so this whole time I thought like you were like there as a listening ear, as a support, understanding, even if you didn't understand, just being like, look, I get it, blah, blah, blah. But the whole time you kept that in your back pocket to use as a weapon. But like you said, like, nope. Now I'm like, oh, cool, check, cool. Now I know that's a thing that you do. And now I don't feel safe to share feelings with you, share experiences with you, share things that make me feel vulnerable, because you might decide to use that against me one day. Instead of that just being like, this is a thing that happened. How can we grow from it and leave it there? Another way you can tell that you are in an emotionally safe space or in an emotionally safe relationship with someone is this is a place where growth is encouraged. You are not mocked. You are not told, well, you change when you're healing, when you are becoming better, when you are doing more, when you are like, you know what, this is a toxic mindset. I'm going to start letting go of this. Growth should always be encouraged in any place that feels safe, even if that person is not necessarily growing with you. I've had this in workspaces, but I've also had the opposite of where growth was not encouraged in workspaces and relationships and in friendships. I've had friends that when I'm like, you know what, I'm no longer doing that. I'm no longer reacting out of my feelings. I'm going to process it, and I'm going to tell people, you know what, say what you want, do what you want. Please just be removed from my life, and I'm going to walk on. And have had friends be like, okay, you quote unquote healed now. You quote unquote got your little life together. So you're no longer one of us. Okay. So we not setting things on fire no more, Ress? Okay. Like I had that. And it was like, oh, why am I being mocked for being an adult? Why is nobody cheering me on for not having the police called on us? Like, I'm getting us all home safely. Why are y'all mad?
They're just not used to that side of you. If they're not able to see you grow and cheer you on in the background, are they really there? You know, a safe person.
Yeah.
Encourager.
Yeah.
Not like with me. I never heard that personally, but I know girlfriends that said that about their guys. Yeah, or even not like cheering for you in the moment. They might not be saying, well, you think you better, but not like having the excitement of and that was the vice versa. I would have so much excitement for them. A little jealous, or it must be something in your mind. I know, like, when I got my home, I was dating, and I could hear the excitement in some's voice, and the other is not really caring about it at all. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, thanks. It's just like you just pick up cues. You pick up cues. That does push you. Yeah, it just pushed me farther away,
Yeah. But even in talking about spaces, not even so much people, just emotionally safe spaces, this is also like in jobs when you tell your boss, like, yeah, I'm about to get this certification. And why? You don't need that for your job. Or, okay, I noticed, Susie's position is open, blah, blah, blah. You know what? You're really good at where you're at. I just, I don't know. I feel like you're good where you're at. They're probably gonna hire somebody from the outside. It's no problem. You just, do your little job there, and that just diminishing your aspirations, wanting more, wanting to see you do more for yourself, keeping you in that same box. Because yes, it can happen in relationships with people, friendships, family, kinships, but it can also happen in just different spaces and environments that we are in.
Mm-hmm. Another way to create spaces for safe relationships is having open and consistent communication. I think this is a good one because I know it's a problem with me when I don't feel safe that I just hold my tongue. It's crazy that I will hold my tongue, but I will get kind of frustrated and irritated if the other person does. Mm-hmm. I want them to open up.
Mm-hmm. I'm aware.
Talk through it. It's not fair because I don't do that all the time as well. But it is something I feel that I need for some reason.
It's a basic need of relationships. That's the reason. You said it like it was ridiculous.
No, I'm saying like when people don't want to.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it is something that really works well with me. An open line of communication, even if it's bad, good, whatever. I just want to know. That's like in all areas. Even if I'm doing horrible at work, tell me. Don't just sit back and watch me do horrible and say what you got. Like, tell me so I can fix it. Or so we can talk through it. Or I can tell you where I might need help or where I'm failing at or what I have struggles with. But that's a whole nother story. That's what. But like even like with relationships, I just want to be open. So I think it just helps me to feel like it's a more safe place where I feel like I can come to you and you can come to me and it's easy.
And I think open and consistent communication also, it builds that pattern and reinforces that safety. Because now I have examples in my mind of when I'm like, oh, I think I'm just going to keep this to myself. I think I'm not going to say this. I can look back and be like, no, because I have communicated my needs before and they listened and we were able to work it out. And they have communicated their needs before, and I didn't know that was a thing. And when I knew it was a thing, I was able to straighten my actions and so forth and have it align with something that is positive and healthy. So you know what? I can't go ahead. And although we don't break it down exactly like that consciously, that's what our brain is doing in that background. When you make it a consistent thing, you're building up that pattern of, nope, this is a safe thing to do. This is something that we have done. This is a thing that we don't need to be afraid of because this is our normal pattern. This is how we operate. Now, this, of course, is not a complete list. Some of the things that you can look for or implement to make a connection emotionally safe is building trust, making sure vulnerability is something that feels safe to display. Having transparency about who you are, what you want, what you bring, what you're about. Having clear boundaries that are respected and not trampled over. Another question you can ask yourself when you're wondering, okay, is this emotionally safe? Are my needs being honored? When I communicated, this is what I need to feel safe. Are they respecting that? Are they able to provide that? And of course, the list goes on. And some of them might just be specific to you. And that's okay. Be true to yourself. Honor what you need to feel safe. Your safety might not look like everybody else's safety, and that's fine. Now, when it comes to this list, this is something I'm trying to implement in all areas of my life in regards to connections with others. About 2 or 3 years ago, I kind of just started cutting off the people who I don't feel I have this with, just for my own mental health sake. In the past, I might have been very like casual touch and go with people, but when I actually care about a person, I care very, very deeply, very, very intensely, and very, very passionately. And I found that the people that were in my life that did not feel emotionally safe were people that were always causing some type of imbalance to my own growth. And so with those, I just cut it off. I just ended those friendships. I ended those like casual dating relationships, all of those. And as I talked about earlier, I kind of just removed myself from the dating scene for a while so I can practice building these things up into myself and trying to give myself as much preparation for when I'm ready to date, when I'm ready to meet my person. They're still gonna meet somebody that's a work in progress, but less of a work in progress. Okay. Like instead of, what is it, I-85 in the summertime where there's construction signs everywhere and only one road, it's like I-85 in the winter. There's signs saying, look, there's going to be work due in May. Just letting y'all know. Work in progress. It's there, but it's not major red flags there. I'm working on it. And that was very important to me, of making sure that I have myself grounded. Not only that, a part of that for me was not submitting myself into situations that could throw myself off balance. When certain people try to come back or try to call or what you doing, I miss you, being like, I recognize that you are an emotionally unsafe person, so there's no point in us trying to rekindle anything. There's no point in us talking. There's no point in us dragging anything out. I'm good, beloved. You go be good over there as well. Being very intentional about that, because even when you start working on yourself, you're like, okay, I'm good. When you drag another person into it and they're not, it can throw you off. It can stunt your growth. It can be like Monopoly. Go back to the start. If you pass go, do not collect the money. Like, you are being reset. You don't get the benefits and you have to start all over. And so that's one of the things I have been implementing, is just recognizing that and being like, nope, I am at a point where I am trying my darnest to be emotionally healthy, but I recognize that I can only do that if I maintain relationships with people who also want that same thing and are able to implement those same things in their life. They are also trying to be emotionally healthy. They are also trying to be emotionally safe. They are finding emotional safety within themselves first as well.
I'm still a work in progress with that. Friendships, relationships, all those. This year, I feel like I kind of feel like I still like have time with friends and things, but I don't feel like I'm as open and sociable and available as I was before. And I think I'm just trying to figure out what works for me, what doesn't work for me, trying not to overextend myself, and just trying to figure out what makes me feel comfortable, and so that I can feel comfortable around other people. Because I never feel like I'm my full vulnerable self half the time. I get really, really close, but I just want to make sure that I'm being respectful to myself in those situations. So it's been me trying to figure out a lot lately about myself and what makes me happy and what situations don't make me happy, what situations to stay away from, and all of that. All that is still a work in progress. But I am still trying to also just communicate my feelings more and not holding those in, to make it feel more available and vulnerable to those that's close around me. It's just been a lot of observing and just trying to figure out what works for me, what makes me feel safe. How can I be that person for the other person if I'm available to do that? Or do I have the capacity to be that safe person for that person? So I think those are the things that I'm working on, or those are the ways that I'm trying to be more open and feel safe in my relationships.
So that is all we have for today's episode, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed. As always, check the Instagram, She Wolf Alchemy. Make sure you follow. If you have not already, head over to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a review. Leave a review with some words. It'll be a great help to us. Also, be sure to share. Other than that, guys, we hope you guys have an amazing week, and bye.